Okay, is my screen visible, Prabhuji? Prabhuji, is my screen sharing visible? Vijay Lakshmi Mataji, are you able to see my screen? I'm not sure if I can't hear you, Prabhuji. Oh.
Prabhu, can you hear me, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji, I can hear you now.
Okay, Prabhu. Yeah, yes,
No.
the screen is visible, Prabhu.
Okay, Prabhuji. Okay, then I will start. Thank you very much, devotees, for joining today's Sunday Bhagavatam class. So we are going to see the verse 42 from chapter 13 of Canto 1 Srimad Bhagavatam. Before we start, we'll offer our prayers to Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om. And we are going to now discuss the verse 42 from chapter 13 of Canto 1 Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay. Yata gavo nasi protas tantyam bandascha damabihi tantyam namabhir baddha vahanti balim ishutuhu. Yata gavo nasi protas tantyam bandascha damabihi tantyam namabhir baddha vahanti balim ishutuhu. Yata gavo nasi protas tantyam bandascha damabihi tantyam namabhir baddha vahanti balim ishutuhu. Would anyone else like to recite?
Can I, Prabhu?
Yes, please.
यथा गावो नसि प्रोतास् तन्त्यां बद्धाश्च धामभिः वाक्तन्त्यां नामभिर्बद्धा वहन्ति बलिम् ईशितुः.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yata gavo nasi, excuse me. Yata gavo nasi protas tantyam bhada chadamabhi vaktantyam namabhir bhada vahanti balam mishitu. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Yata kavo nasi protas tantyam baddascha damabi vaktantyam namabir baddha vahanti balimishitu. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Okay.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Hare Krishna everybody. Chale Prabhupada ki jai. Yata gavo nasi protas tantyam baddhascha damabhi vaktayam namabhir baddha vahanti balim ishtuhi. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, thank you, devotees. So we'll go to the rest of the verse. Yata, synonyms. Yata, as much as, gavaha, cow, nasi, by the nose, protaha, strung, tantyam, by the thread, bandaha, bound by, cha, also, damabihi, by ropes, vaktantyam, in the network of Vedic hymns, namabihi, by nomenclatures, bandaha, conditioned, vahanti, carry on, balim, orders, Ishutuhu, for being controlled by the Supreme Lord. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. As a cow bound through the nose by a long rope is conditioned, so also human beings are bound by different Vedic injunctions and are conditioned to obey the orders of the Supreme. Purport. Every living being, whether a man or an animal or a bird, thinks that he is free by himself, but actually no one is free from the severe laws of the Lord. The laws of the Lord are severe because they cannot be disobeyed in any circumstance. The man-made laws may be evaded by cunning outlaws, but in the courts of the supreme lawmaker, there is not the slightest possibility of neglecting the laws. A slight change from the course of God-made law can bring about a massive danger to be faced by the lawbreaker. Such laws of the supreme are generally known as the codes of religion under the different conditions, but the principle of religion everywhere is one and the same, namely to obey the orders of the supreme God, the codes of religion. That is the condition of the material existence. All living beings in the material world have taken up the risk of conditioned life by their own selection and are thus entrapped by the laws of material nature. The only way to get out of the entanglement is to agree to obey the Supreme. But instead of becoming free from the clutches of Maya or illusion, foolish human beings become bound up by different nomenclatures, being designated as Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras, Hindus, Mohammedans, Indians, Europeans, Americans, Chinese, and many others. And thus they carry out the orders of the Supreme Lord under the influence of respective scriptural or legislative injunctions. The statutory laws of the state are imperfect imitation replicas of religious codes. The secular state or the godless state allows the citizens to break the laws of God, but restricts them from disobeying the laws of the state. The result is that people in general suffer more by breaking the laws of God than by obeying the imperfect laws made by man. Every man is imperfect by constitution under conditions of material existence, and there is not the least possibility that even the most materially advanced man can enact perfect legislation. On the other hand, there is no such imperfection in the laws of God. If leaders are educated in the laws of God, there is no necessity of a makeshift legislative council of aimless men. There is necessity of change in the makeshift laws of man, but there is no change in the God-made laws because they are made perfect by the all-perfect personality of Godhead. The codes of religion, scriptural injunctions are made by liberated representatives of God in considerations of different conditions of living, and by carrying out the orders of the Lord, the conditioned living beings gradually become free from the clutches of material existence. The factual position of the living being is, however, that he is the eternal servitor of the Supreme Lord. In his liberated state, he renders service to the Lord in transcendental love and thus enjoys a life of full freedom, even sometimes on an equal level with the Lord or sometimes more than the Lord. But in the conditioned material world, every living being wants to be the Lord of the other living beings, and thus by the illusion of Maya, this mentality of lording it over becomes a cause of further extension of conditional life. So in the material world, the living being is still more conditioned until he surrenders unto the Lord by reviving his original state of eternal servitorship. That is the last instruction of Bhagavad Gita and all other recognized scriptures of the world. Stop sharing. ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरः श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। नमः ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन् इति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधा कान्त नमोस्तुते। तप्त काञ्चन गौरांगी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। की जय। Okay, I'll share my screen again. Okay. All right, I'm sharing my screen. Let's go through the verse again. So, yata gavo nasi protas. So, yata gavo. Gavo here is the cow. Nasi protas, that is nose of a cow. Natyam bandash, that means bound by a rope. Here it is referring to the in a cow. There is a rope which is connected to the nose of the cow. So that rope, and then cha damabihi, there is also a longer rope. We'll see what it is. And then and there is an analogy. So we just talked about the cow being bound by a rope on its nose, and there is a longer rope which is connected to that rope. So Vaktantyam Namabir Padda. So here it is talking about human beings. They are bound by Vaktantyam. The Tantyam, the rope is made by Vak. Which Vak it is? The Vak means words, the words of the Vedic injunctions or the Vedas. And it is binding the humans by Namabir, that is different nomenclatures. Nomenclatures means here it is specifically referring to like Brahmana, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras, or Brahmachari, Grahastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyasis. That's that kind of Varnashram designations. And they are bound by these Varnashram designations. And Vahanti Balim Ishutuku. So everybody, they obey the orders of the Supreme Lord by these ropes. Okay. All right. So where we are currently in this particular chapter, named is chapter 13, Dhritarashtra quits home, is that Vidurji came back from his pilgrimage. Then Yudhishthira Maharaj, he received him, and he exchanged talks with him. And then Vidurji, he started preaching Krishna consciousness to all the people who were in the palace of Yudhishthira Maharaj, specifically to Dhritarashtra. And then when Vidurji was speaking with Dhritarashtra, he chastised him that he has gotten old and still he is stuck to Grahastha life and enjoying the facilities in the palace. And after that, Dhritarashtra, he and Gandhari, they left the palace. And when Vidurji, and Vidurji also left the palace, and Maharaj Yudhishthira, when he came to know this, he started lamenting. So at this point, Narada Muni enters the scene, and he starts, pacifying the Yudhishthira Maharaj lamentation. Okay, so the verse 42, this is a continuation of the previous verse in which Narada Muni just spoke that, everybody is under the control of the Lord. So the Lord just brings different living beings together, just as, in random probability, just people come together and then leave in this material world. So just to prove this point, he's giving an analogy here. So this is the cow, image of a cow with you can see here that there is a rope which is bound to the nose of the cow, and there is a longer rope. So this is what this verse is talking about. So the shorter rope, it is it is given as a comparison to the Varnashrama designations, the different Varnas and different ashramas. And the longer rope, it is said to be the Vedas. So the Vedas, they are binding every human beings and by a longer rope. And the shorter rope is by the different Varnashram designations. And they are all following the, essentially following the orders of the Supreme Lord. And thus the Gopal, the one who is, looking after the cow is Krishna himself, the Supreme Lord. Okay, so the theme that I would like to discuss today is understanding Varnashram in the context of Bhakti. Okay, so this, the rest of the presentation, this is more useful for those who are practicing Gaudiya Vaishnavism. So since this is a public forum, so I just want to say that if there are people who are not falling in this category, the rest of the presentation may not be useful, but you're welcome to stick around. Okay. All right. So first, let's see the difference between the regular Varnashram and the Bhakti path. Okay. So every living being in the material world, they start, well, they all have this conditioning, which is, they want to be enjoyers or controllers. Okay. So they want to lord it over material world. So this is what Srila Prabhupada says again and again in his purport. They want to lord it over the material world. So this is the false ego. This is the identity, default identity of a conditioned living being. So when you want to enjoy, let me tell you how to enjoy. So what do? They like a smaller circle for enjoying. through Varnashram. That is, like you want to enjoy, right? Okay. I'll tell you how to enjoy. So right now you are a Brahmana, you are a Grahastha. Let's say a Brahmana Grahastha, for example. So you have your own duties and you have your own responsibilities. Now enjoy within the circle instead of, trying to enjoy everything without any control, any restrictions. So the Varnashram Dharma, what it does, tries to control the enjoyment within that particular circle. So how is this? What these samskars are? The purpose of these samskars is that it nourishes the false ego with which the jiva is taking birth in that particular body. So if a Jiva is born in a Brahmana family, but through the proper Dashavida samskar. These samskars, what it does is it nourishes that particular inclination, the false ego that Jiva is trying to be familiarized with. So this is what Srila Prabhupada again and again refers to. Forgetting the name of that word. So then the next step is that the jiva starts enjoying. This is what in Bhagavad Gita Krishna says as Sakama Karma Yoga. So through performing Varnashrama duties, he enjoys. He performs a fruitive activity and he gets the result for those fruitive activities and he starts enjoying those. But these activities, the Varnashrama activities, they are designed in a way that they are purifying. This is particularly done for achieving different types of duties, Varnashram duties, which are like Nitya Karma, Naimitika Karma, and then Kamya Karma. Nitya Karma are like, periodic duties. For example, the Shraddha ceremony, when somebody passes away, there are particular things which needs to be done. And then Kamya Karma, these are like Putra Kamesha Yagya, or different karmas that Sakama Karma Yoga performs, Karma Yogi performs, and these slowly purify one in that particular Varna and Ashram. Okay, then after one progresses from Sakama Karma Yoga, at this stage, one realizes that, is this all? You just perform a karma and then you get the fruits, and it's just an endless cycle. So what is there more? When one comes to this stage, what they do is they start accepting a higher goal, that is achieving liberation from the material world. At this point, they perform karma, but without any attachment. That is called Nishkama Karma Yoga. They're still there and they continue from the Varnashram duties, which slowly purifies them. Okay. After that, they go to the stage of Jnana Yoga, level of karma. And when anarthas is completely gone, then they are fully qualified for Jnana Yoga. So one thing which is one needs to be purified. This is like a prerequisite. There is no getting around this fact. Unless one is purified of the anarthas, one cannot perform the Jnana Yoga. This is what Krishna refers to yoga. If you are still having anarthas, you are supposed to perform some of the karmas, and then when you're pure, then you don't have to perform them. Okay, so when one perfects this Jnana Yoga stage, they achieve liberation. That is, mostly it is impersonal liberation, Sayajya Mukti, or there are other 4 types of liberation. Okay, so this whole thing, this is the gradual path which the Vedas talk about, which is part of the Varnashram Dharma. There's a praman, or the proof for this. These are Dharma Shastras. So we have like the Manusmritis and Mahabharata, this and that. So there are many Dharma Shastras which go in detail about this particular path. So now if we look at the Bhakti path, which is direct path, we start at the same point. In the material world, we have the identity of being enjoyer or controller. And then what happens is we come in association with Vaishnavas, that is completely by accident. So the Brahmande, Pramite Kona, Bhagyavana Jiva. So in this verse, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that, there are many millions and millions of living beings which are roaming around from, going up and down the universal, just by random chance that they come across Vaishnavas, and through their mercy, Vaishnavas' mercy, one gets the Agyat Sukriti. When one accumulates sufficient Agyat Sukriti, that matures into faith. So when one gets, what happens, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu mentions this verse, Naham Vipro, Nacha Narapatir, Napi Vaishyo, Nashudro. That is, at that point, the designation is not that I am Vaishya, Shudra, Brahmana, Kshatriya, not that. It is Goku, Padakamalayur, Dasa, Dasa, Anudasa. That is, you are the servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord of the Gopis, that is Krishna. So you get that true ego. That's why devotees, if you see, they use this term false ego. There is no materialistic person who will use the term false ego, because you know what the true ego is, which is you are the servant of Jivara Sorpai, Krishna Nityadas. You are the servant of the Lord. That's the true ego. But you receive that at the very beginning itself, but you still have the inertia of the false ego, because the false ego is the one which you have accumulated through countless number of lifetimes, which is 9 limbs of bhakti. You slowly progress in the bhakti path, and at this stage anarthas are still there. One goes through different stages and then goes to the stage of anartha nivriti. At this point, we slowly start losing the anarthas. There are anarthas goes in different stages. I spoke in the previous class, like Ekadesha Vardhini, Bahudesha Vardhini, Praiki, Purna. So it goes slowly. And once everything is completely gone, mostly gone, it should be Nishta, not Nishta. So one reaches the Nishta stage, which is steady performance of Bhakti, then Ruchi and Asakti. You develop attachment for Krishna, and from there go to the stage of Bhav, which is perfected stage, and then Prema. That's this is what the direct path or the bhakti path is. So the pramana for this, the proof for this whole path is Bhakti Shastras, which is Srimad Bhagavatam, that is given in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Okay. So in the rest of the presentation, whatever materials I'm going to present, I want to say that this is all from His Grace, Balram Shakti Prabhu Sadhana Bhakti. So I've taken the slides from his presentation and I'm sharing it here. Okay. All right. So the question arises for devotees. This is very important because this is a content. Start from the very beginning that in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, what is given as the qualification? Essentially, Srila Rupa Goswami is saying that there is no material disqualification for practicing bhakti. That is, he says, Shastraha Shruyat Bhaktau Nirmatrasya Yadikaritah. So here the scripture says that any human being, this is the requirement for performing bhakti. If you have a human form, you are qualified for performing that. You need to have enough Agyat Sukriti accumulated. When that matures into faith, then you are qualified for bhakti. But that can only be performed by a human being. So just as there is an analogy, everyone is qualified for taking bath in the month of Magh. So anybody can take up to bhakti in who has the human form of life. Okay. So is Anya Bilashita Shunyam. It is shown that regardless of whatever social positions one has, you are qualified for performing bhakti. But there is a problem with it in the context of Varnashram Dharma. Let's see what it is. If all people who are qualified for bhakti start neglecting Varnashram Dharma, isn't it? If they do not perform their prescribed duties and they simply perform bhakti, all people will be engaged in sinful activities, right? Why this question is, some of you may not understand why is this even sinful, because so if you see in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that in a verse, one should not perform the duties of it is better to perform imperfectly one's own duty than to perform another person's duty, because in the traditional Varnashram Dharma as prescribed by the Dharma Shastra, a person who is in the Varnashram Dharma doesn't have to perform a particular sinful activity like killing an animal or something to accumulate sins. You just have to perform somebody else's duty and you accumulate sins. So what I'm trying to say is that if one neglects Varnashram duty, then they are accumulating sinful reactions. So in this way, the question arises that one who is performing bhakti, don't they have to do Varnashram duties? The Nitya, Naimitika, sinful reactions. What will happen to that? So this is the question that we are trying to answer here. So how can they become purified of the sinful reactions? Should they perform any atonement for it? So let's see what the Shastra says. So here Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Srila Rupa Goswami says, Anunushtano dosho marinam nishita charano charato daivat prayaschitam tu nochitam iti Vaishnava Shastranam rahasyam tad vidam matam. So adhikarina is at fault for failing to perform all important angas of bhakti. Important angas of bhakti should be performed, and if they don't perform, that is a fault. Okay, but he is not at fault for failing to perform the duties of varna and ashram. So clearly here Rupa Goswami is saying that if a bhakti adhikari, angas of bhakti, they are at fault. But if they are not performing the varnashram dharma, the duties, it's not a fault for them. If they commit sin, nishiddha acharato, if they perform any sins, there is no atonement prescribed for him. Prayichitam to na uchitam. So na uchitam means what? He is not suggesting that you don't have to perform prayashita. He's saying you should not perform. It's uchit nahi hai. You should not be going and performing this prayashita, that prayashita for committing sinful reactions, because